Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. We've got a super exciting one today because we are going to be doing a full review of the Acedeck Ares X1 4-wheel drive electric skateboard. The 4-wheel drive that we will be reviewing in this video retails for $23.99 and the 2-wheel version is $19.99 at the moment. I will preface this video by saying that we were not paid by Acedeck to make it, however they did send us this electric skateboard for free for review. This video will be split up into categories discussing various aspects of the Acedeck, such as top speed, range, hill climbing ability, acceleration and braking, ride feeling, etc. So without further ado, let's get into the review and discuss the first category, which is the top speed on the Acedeck. The advertised top speed on the Acedeck Ares X1 4-wheel drive is 60 kilometers an hour, which is 37.28 miles per hour. On all of our top speed tests, we maxed out at around 55 to 56 kilometers an hour, which is right around 35 miles an hour. Now, this actually wasn't because we were maxing out the board. In fact, there was still plenty of room left on the throttle, and I fully believe we could have reached 60 kilometers an hour if we had really wanted to. Even at the top speeds we reached of right around 35 miles an hour, the board felt super stable thanks to those custom CNC'd TKP extra wide trucks. If you're looking for a fast production electric skateboard, I would highly recommend the X1 because not only does it get up to 60 kilometers an hour, but it's also super stable while doing so. The advertised range on the 4-wheel drive version of the X1 electric skateboard is 45 kilometers or right around 28 miles. On my range test with the 8-inch pneumatic tires, I was able to get 38 kilometers or right around 24 miles. When looking strictly at range, the range on this electric skateboard isn't actually great compared with some of the other options in its price range. However, when looking at the broader picture, it's understandable why the range isn't actually that great. The battery on this board is a 14S4P Molicel P42A battery, which is absolutely massive at 870 watt-hours. However, there are 4 motors on this board with 8-inch pneumatic tires, which use a ton of energy. This is the reason why the range on this board isn't actually all that high. Basically, my point is that while 24 miles isn't a whole lot of range for an electric skateboard this price, 24 miles is a whole lot of range for a 4-wheel drive board with 8-inch tires. I also conducted a range test with the 115mm rubber wheels and ended up getting 40 kilometers or right around 25 miles of range. So they're basically as efficient as the 8-inch pneumatic tires, which is a little bit disappointing because I was expecting the street wheels to provide me with a little bit more range. If you're looking for more range out of this board, I wouldn't use either of these two options. If you use something like a Torqueboard's 110 or other big urethane wheel, you're surely going to get a little bit more range than either of these two options. Additionally, if the range on the 4-wheel drive isn't nearly enough for you, looking at the 2-wheel drive option might be a better option. It'll sacrifice some of the acceleration and the power that you'll see later in this video, but in exchange you'll get a little bit more range because you only have 2 motors running instead of 4. In conclusion, as far as the range goes, if you prioritize range in a high-end production electric skateboard, I wouldn't go with the 4-wheel drive version of this board. There's a couple other boards with better range, or the 2-wheel drive version of this board would be better suited for you. Third up, we have the hill climbing ability of this board, and the hill climbing on the Acedeck 4-wheel drive is absolutely incredible. Here's some footage of the board versus an 18-degree or roughly 33% grade hill, and as you can see, this board absolutely flies up it with no issues. Having this 4-wheel drive on hills not only means that you have 4 insanely powerful motors to tackle them, but you also have traction on each wheel, meaning that you can accelerate quickly and grip to the hill with ease. If you're looking for a board that absolutely flies up massive hills, then the 4-wheel drive Ares Acedeck X1 is a great option for you. A two-wheel drive will make it up all of these same hills. The difference between a four-wheel drive and a two-wheel drive is that you'll have much better grip on the four-wheel drive, and it'll do it slightly faster. So far, this is by far the best production electric skateboard that I've had in terms of hill climbing. It's super impressive, and it's an absolute beast on these hills. Fourth up, we have the acceleration and the braking, and with this four-wheel drive electric skateboard, both are absolutely incredible. They're super strong, yet also smooth and reliable. The acceleration is strong enough to the point that your wheels will spin out if you fully accelerate from a standstill. At the same time, while it's super powerful, it's also a super smooth acceleration, which I really appreciate about this board. The brakes are also fantastic. They bring you to a standstill very quickly, and they're also super smooth and reliable. The acceleration and the braking of a four-wheel drive are arguably its best benefits because you have great traction and great power on every single one of your wheels. I've never ridden a four-wheel drive, so having the opportunity to ride this board was a complete change in ride feeling that I really liked when it came to the acceleration and the braking of the board. If you're looking for an electric skateboard with an extremely strong acceleration and very strong brakes, then the four-wheel drive X1 is a solid option. Fifth up, we have the ride feeling, and most of the stuff I'll say here is subjective as everyone likes a different style of board and has a different preferred ride feeling, but for me, these are my findings. Normally, I'm not a fan of unibody carbon fiber decks because they're super stiff and allow a lot of vibrations to pass through to your legs. However, I absolutely loved the Ares X1. First off, the deck is nice and big, it's super long and very wide, giving your feet ample space to rest on. There's also slight micro drops to keep you feeling locked into the board, despite the fact that there's not a whole lot of concave on this deck. When it comes to road vibrations, the massive 8-inch pneumatic tires do absolute wonders. They're super smooth and comfortable and eliminate almost all cracks, vibrations, and bumps that you'll encounter on a daily basis on the roads. Needless to say, I'm a strong supporter of the 8-inch pneumatic tires because they make this unibody carbon fiber deck feel comfortable. The 115mm rubber wheels are also very comfortable, though they're not on the same level as these 8-inch pneumatic tires. The advantage to the 115s is that they have a lower ride height, meaning you have a lower center of gravity, giving you a more longboard-esque feel on such a big and bulky electric skateboard. The ride feeling of this electric skateboard is heavily impacted by the fact that it's a four-wheel drive. Instead of only being pushed from behind, you're also being pulled from the front, which is a completely different sensation than just a rear drive electric skateboard. It gives the board a little bit more punch and makes it feel less like a longboard and more like an electric vehicle. One thing that I really didn't like about the ride feeling is how fast this thing slows down once you take your hand off the throttle. Because there's so much resistance from 4 different motors, the board slows down very quickly if you're not on the throttle, which I found to be really annoying. The trucks on this board also feel great. I'm a huge fan of these TKPs as they're much more stable than the DKPs seen on a lot of 2-in-1 electric skateboards. As I said earlier in the video, it felt super stable at high speeds, it feels super stable all around, but at the same time you're still able to carve this board and have fun with it. The sixth category that I'm going to discuss is trail riding with this electric skateboard. The X1 is intended for both city use and light trail use, so it's not fully intended to be a mountain board-esque electric vehicle, but you can still use it on trails if you'd like to. If you're looking for an electric skateboard that's going to be used on dirt trails and gravel and mud, this probably isn't a great option, but if you want to take your board and do some light off-roading and some light trails, then this thing does the trick just fine. Being a 4-wheel drive electric skateboard, the handling and traction are phenomenal when compared to a 2-wheel drive electric skateboard. It's actually incredible how much of a difference it makes. On these compact dirt trails, this board performs perfectly, has no issues and is a ton of fun to ride. If the dirt is a little bit looser on the trails, it can become a little bit harder to ride this board just because these tires aren't super knobby. Another thing that's super noticeable about this board when riding it off-road is its stiffness. Because you're going over a ton more cracks and bumps and all sorts of imperfections in the path, the carbon fiber deck really starts to become present. It's a little bit more difficult to control and maneuver this board just because it doesn't flex and deflect when you go over those cracks and bumps, and it goes through your entire body as a shock instead. While these 8-inch tires do enough to compensate for the stiff deck in street use, when taking this board trail riding they don't do nearly enough because this stiff deck can send you right off the board if you hit a tree root or a rock fast enough and aren't prepared for it. All in all, I really love taking this board off-road, and it works very well compared to any of my other two-wheel drive electric skateboards because of that added traction from the four-wheel drive. If you're looking for an e-skate whose sole purpose is to off-road, a mountain board is definitely going to be a better option than this, but if you're interested in 2-in-1 use and want to take your board out on track sometimes, this is a great option. Finally, we have the 7th and final category, which is just any other miscellaneous important findings that I've had with this electric skateboard. The first is that if you use the stock 300mm belts that are for the 115mm rubber wheels, the deck will hit the motors when you turn fully. To solve this, we just got some 305mm belts so that the motors sit far enough from the deck so that they won't touch when the board fully turns. It was surprising to me to see such a simple issue like this with such an easy fix, considering all of the other thought and engineering put into some of the other aspects of this board. A second thing that I noticed about this board is that when I rode it in eco mode only, the remote would disconnect from the board very frequently. I didn't have this issue when riding in S or S Plus mode, but in the eco mode the board's basically unrideable for me because it disconnects so often and is a safety hazard. I'm not sure if this is a common problem with the Acedeck Ares X1, but I do know that a lot of carbon fiber electric skateboards do have connections issues if the receiver is placed inside of the deck. This hasn't proven to be too big of a problem for me considering I've ridden mostly in the 2 higher speed modes, but this is something that is very serious and needs to be addressed by Acedeck as soon as possible. Another thing to be aware of with the 4-wheel drive version of this board is its weight. The X1 4-wheel drive weighs in at 19.6 kilograms, which is right around 43 pounds. The board is very, very heavy and cumbersome to transport if you need to. Another thing about this board is its ridiculously long charge time. It's got a very big battery and only a 3 amp charger, meaning that the charge time on this board is 6 to 7 hours when it's completely drained. There definitely needs to be a faster charger included or a faster charger available from Acedeck so that riders can get this board charged up and get back to riding sooner. Another important thing to realize about this board is that while it's marketed as being a 14,000 watt electric skateboard, that's the maximum specs on the motors. If you look at what the battery can output and the current that the ESCs can handle, the maximum power on this board is closer to right around 5,000 watts, meaning that a lot of the power in these motors isn't even being utilized. So here are my concluding thoughts on the Acedeck Ares X1 4-wheel drive electric skateboard. For $2,399, this is a super solid electric skateboard and I absolutely love it. If you're looking for a high performance 4-wheel drive electric skateboard with fantastic hill climbing, a great top speed, and solid range, this is definitely a great option for you. If you are debating to get this 4-wheel drive or the 2-wheel drive version of the Ares X1, here is my personal guide. If you value range over hill climbing, acceleration and braking, and off-road traction, then choose the 2-wheel drive. The acceleration, the braking, the hill climbing, and the traction will all still be great on the 2-wheel drive, but you'll get significantly more range out of the board. If you'd prefer to have better hill climbing ability, better acceleration and braking, and better traction off-road, then the 4-wheel drive is probably the better option for you. Though I was given the 4-wheel drive for review and that's all I've tried, I probably would prefer the 2-wheel drive just to get that extra range, because I think that the 4-wheel drive is just a little bit overkill. That is it for our review of the Acedeck Ares X1 4-wheel drive electric skateboard. If you guys have any questions or comments, let us know in the comments section below. Additionally, we will have a link to the X1 in our description. If you guys enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for lots of other electric skateboard reviews, electric skateboard content, and DIY electric skateboard builds. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.